Hey gamers, we're diving into the land of unsung heroes today. Those incredible games that had rave reviews but didn't exactly fly off the shelves. Welcome to the Top 20 Underrated Games Countdown. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with Control. This game is basically the X-Files, and the Twilight Zone had a weird, mind-bending baby, and I love it. You play as Jesse Faden, who's trying to uncover the secrets of the Federal Bureau of Control, a government agency that's in charge of all things paranormal. But here's the kicker. The building itself is alive. Yeah, you heard me right. Picture an office where the walls move, doors disappear, and oh yeah, you have telekinetic powers. You get to throw furniture, enemies, and pretty much anything not nailed down with your mind. It's incredibly satisfying. Now, why didn't this game sell better? Honestly, I think it flew under the radar because its marketing leaned too much into the mystery. People didn't quite know what they were getting into, and let's face it, this game doesn't exactly hold your hand. The story gets abstract fast. But trust me, once you get sucked in, Control is one of the most unique action-adventure games you'll ever play. Plus, those visuals? The game looks gorgeous, especially with ray tracing. It's like being inside a sci-fi painting. If you're a fan of supernatural powers, conspiracy theories, and trippy mind-bending landscapes, you owe it to yourself to give Control a try. Just be ready for a few WTF moments, because this game loves to mess with your head, but in a good way. Okay, next up, A Plague Tale: Innocence. What do you get when you mix medieval France, two siblings on the run, and an army of plague-infested rats? You get one of the most atmospheric, emotional stealth games out there. You play as Amicia, a teenage girl trying to protect her younger brother Hugo while navigating a world ravaged by the Black Death. Oh, and did I mention the thousands of rats swarming everywhere? It's like Ratatouille meets The Last of Us, but way more depressing and with less cooking. The story is what really stands out here. The bond between Amicia and Hugo is beautifully written, and you really feel like you're fighting for their survival. The environments are stunningly detailed, from the grim, disease-ridden streets to the creepy, rat-infested dungeons. And the gameplay? It's a blend of stealth, puzzles, and action. You'll need to use light to fend off the rat swarms, and trust me, these rats are no joke. They'll eat you alive, literally. But it's not just about the rats. The game is filled with tension, whether you're sneaking past enemy soldiers or figuring out how to keep Hugo safe. So why didn't this game blow up? My guess? It released quietly without much fanfare, and the whole plague and rats setting probably didn't scream fun to a lot of people. But if you love a strong narrative, emotional character development, and solving problems with your wits rather than brute force, A Plague Tale: Innocence will absolutely hook you. Plus, you'll never look at a rat the same way again. Moving on to number 18, The Evil Within 2. Now, if you're into horror games, this one's right up your alley. You play as Detective Sebastian Castellanos, who's thrust back into a nightmarish world to save his daughter. Yeah, it's got all the family drama mixed with some seriously terrifying enemies. The first game was already a decent hit, but this sequel, it amped everything up. You've got more open areas to explore, more creative ways to take down enemies, with concept and a deeper, more emotional story. So why didn't it make the same impact as other survival horror games? Honestly, I think the first game's lukewarm reception might have scared some people off. But The Evil Within 2 totally redeems the series. The gameplay's smoother and the scares are more intense. You've got everything from grotesque deformed monsters to a reality-bending landscape that keeps you on edge. The game isn't just about cheap jump scares. There's real tension here. One minute, you're sneaking through a haunted house, and the next, the floor is crumbling beneath you as reality itself twists. It's like the game enjoys messing with you just as much as its monsters do. But maybe the most underrated part of The Evil Within 2 is its story. It goes beyond the usual survive the horror trope and really dives into Sebastian's personal journey. It's equal parts terrifying and tragic, and by the end, you actually care about these characters. So, if you're a horror fan who missed this one, now's your chance to dive back into the nightmare. Just maybe play with the lights on. All right, time to talk about GreedFall, the RPG that gives you pirates, magic, and diplomacy all rolled into one. Set on a mysterious island filled with monsters, magic, and colonial tensions, GreedFall gives you a rich, narrative-driven experience that blends exploration, politics, and combat. You play as Desardet, a diplomat tasked with finding a cure for a deadly plague while navigating political alliances and uncovering ancient secrets. Think of it as a mix between Dragon Age and Assassin's Creed, with a bit of pirate swagger. The world building here is top-notch. The island of Tir Fradi feels alive, filled with different factions all vying for control, and the choices you make, they actually matter. You can negotiate with different groups, forge alliances, or, just go full sword and magic on everyone. The combat system isn't groundbreaking, but it's satisfying, especially when you're mixing swordplay with magic abilities. Plus, there's something incredibly satisfying about wearing a fancy diplomat coat while taking down a giant mythical creature. So why didn't GreedFall hit big? Honestly, it came out in 2019, right in the shadow of huge RPGs like The Witcher 3 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's a shame because it really deserves more recognition for its unique setting and deep storytelling. It might not have the polish of a AAA game, but if you love a good RPG with meaningful choices and a world dripping with atmosphere, GreedFall is a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. Prey. This is the game that asks the question, what if BioShock took place in space and was filled with creepy, shape-shifting aliens? Set aboard the space station Talos 1, Prey throws you into a terrifying situation where pretty much everything wants to kill you. You're not just fighting aliens, you're also fighting the station itself, because nothing is what it seems. Chairs could be an alien. Coffee cups? Yep, also an alien. It's paranoia, the game, and I'm here for it. The best part of Prey is how much freedom it gives you. You can approach situations in a million different ways. Want to sneak past enemies using vents? Go for it. Want to turn yourself into a coffee mug to sneak past guards? Totally doable. It's this kind of open-ended gameplay that makes Prey so special. Plus, the story is a total mind-bender, with twists and turns that'll keep you guessing until the end. But despite its greatness, Prey didn't exactly sell like crazy. I blame the marketing. People just didn't know what to expect. And the fact that it shares a name with the 2006 Prey, which was a totally different game, didn't help. But if you're a fan of immersive sims like Dishonored or BioShock, you absolutely need to check this one out. Just, keep an eye on those coffee cups. Next up, we've got Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. Now, the Dishonored series has always been a bit of an acquired taste. Stealth-based, supernatural assassinations in a plague-ridden steampunk world. What's not to love, right? Death of the Outsider is a standalone expansion where you play as Billy Lurk, one of the coolest characters in the series. The goal? Take down the mysterious and godlike outsider. No biggie, right? The level design is classic Dishonored, open, filled with secrets, and rewarding creative gameplay. You can approach missions any way you want. Sneak in, go full chaos mode, or get super creative with your powers. And speaking of powers, Death of the Outsider gives you some new tricks to play with, like the ability to swap places with enemies. Nothing is more satisfying than swapping with a guard and watching him fall into his own trap. So why didn't this game get the attention it deserved? I think it came out at a weird time when the series was already starting to fade from the spotlight. It also didn't get as much marketing as the main Dishonored titles, so a lot of people overlooked it. But if you love stealth games or just want to feel like a supernatural assassin for a few hours, this one's worth picking up. Ever wondered what Dark Souls would be like if it was set in a dystopian, sci-fi world where you could chop off enemy limbs to use as your own armor? That's the Surge 2 in a nutshell. And let me tell you, it's as satisfying as it sounds. The combat is brutal, strategic, and incredibly rewarding. You've got to target specific body parts of your enemies, hack them off, and then craft upgrades from their remains. Sounds grim, But hey, that's the future for you. The Surge 2 takes everything the first game did and improves on it. The world is more open, the combat is deeper, and the enemies are more varied. You can approach each fight in multiple ways. Do you go for the quick kill or take the risky route and try to sever an enemy's arm for a sweet gear upgrade? It's that constant risk-reward balance that makes the game so engaging. But despite all the improvements, the Surge 2 didn't sell as well as it should have. Maybe people thought it was just another Dark Souls clone, or maybe it got lost in the sea of sci-fi action games. But if you're looking for a challenging, tactical combat game with a sci-fi twist, this one's a hidden gem. Titanfall 2. This game has a special place in my heart. It's one of the best first-person shooters ever made, hands down. The multiplayer? Smooth as butter, with fast-paced movement and giant mechs you can call down from the sky to crush your enemies. But let's talk about the single-player campaign for a second, because it's one of the most underrated campaigns of all time. Seriously, I don't know what magic they put into this, but it's brilliant. You're piloting your Titan BT through mind-bending, time-shifting levels, and the bond you form with BT is genuinely heartwarming. And let's be real, who doesn't want a giant robot buddy? So why did Titanfall 2 flop in sales? 2 words, Battlefield and Call of Duty. It was released smack in the middle of those 2 heavy hitters, and it didn't stand a chance. It's like throwing a party and realizing Beyoncé is having a concert next door. But if you missed out, this is one of the tightest, most fun FPS games out there. The wall running, mech fighting, and epic moments make it a must-play. Plus, BT's got more personality than some human characters I've seen in games. Now, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice isn't just a game, it's an experience. It's a journey through the mind of Senua, a warrior battling not only physical enemies but also her own psychosis. This game tackles mental health in a way that's rarely seen in video games, with an audio design that makes you feel like you're right there in Senua's head. It's unsettling, it's haunting, and it's beautiful all at the same time. The voices whispering in your ear, the hallucinations, the feeling of dread, it all blends together to create something truly unique. The combat is simple but impactful, and the story is deeply emotional. You'll find yourself questioning what's real and what's part of Senua's mind. And by the end, it feels like you've gone through a real journey with her. The visuals are stunning, and the performance by Melina Guergens as Senua is absolutely breathtaking. So why didn't Hellblade blow up? It did okay, but it was very niche. A lot of people didn't know what they were getting into. A deep, emotionally charged game that's as much about the mind as it is about the action. But trust me, if you're looking for something that hits hard both mentally and emotionally, Hellblade is an experience you'll never forget. All right, I'm about to preach the gospel of Hollow Knight. This game is a masterpiece, a Metroidvania that takes you through an intricate, hand-drawn world filled with secrets, bosses, and challenges that'll make you question your skills as a gamer. You're a tiny knight in a massive underground kingdom of bugs, and let me tell you, these bugs do not mess around. The combat is tight, the exploration is rewarding, and the art, beautiful. Every area feels distinct, from the eerie, empty caverns to the lush, overgrown forests. It's a world you get lost in. Now, why didn't it sell like gangbusters? Well, it's an indie game for one, and a Metroidvania at that, which can be a bit niche. Plus, when it first came out, it didn't have much fanfare. But as word of mouth spread, Hollow Knight became a cult hit. And if you love the thrill of tough but fair combat and the joy of exploring a beautifully crafted world, this game should be at the top of your list. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to be a tiny bug knight saving the world? Imagine being stuck in a time loop. Now imagine you're stuck in a time loop in space. The Outer Wilds is one of the most unique games I've ever played. You're an astronaut exploring a solar system that resets every 22 minutes as the sun goes supernova. Your job? Figure out what's causing the loop and maybe, just maybe, stop it from happening. The game is all about discovery. There are no combat mechanics, no hand-holding, just pure exploration and curiosity. Each planet you visit has its own mysteries, and the satisfaction of piecing everything together is unmatched. It's a hard game to describe without spoiling the magic, but it's the kind of experience that sticks with you long after you've finished it. The way the game reveals its story, slowly and subtly, is something special. Every clue feels earned, every discovery feels monumental, and the ending, wow. It's an emotional gut punch in the best way possible. So why didn't this game explode in popularity? Honestly, it's not the type of game that screams mainstream appeal. It's slow, contemplative, and requires patience. But for those willing to dive in, The Outer Wilds is one of the most rewarding gaming experiences out there. Let's talk about Returnal, a roguelike third-person shooter with a sci-fi twist that hits you right in the feels. You play as Celine, an astronaut stranded on a hostile alien planet that resets every time she dies. Think Groundhog Day, but with way more alien creatures trying to tear you apart. The loot mechanic works so well here, and each death feels like a learning experience. The game's brutal difficulty, mixed with its tight gunplay, keeps you coming back for more punishment. What really sets Returnal apart is its atmosphere. It's dripping with tension, and the audio design? Let's just say, wear headphones and prepare to be on edge for the entire playthrough. The story is cryptic, slowly unraveling as you fight your way through different biomes, but that mystery keeps you hooked. Every run feels unique, and as you improve, the sense of satisfaction is next level. The boss fights? Absolutely epic. So why isn't Returnal a household name? Well, it's a roguelike, which can be intimidating for some players. And let's be real, Returnal doesn't exactly hold your hand. It's tough as nails, and not everyone is into the idea of replaying levels after dying over and over. But if you enjoy a challenge and love roguelikes, Returnal is a must-play. Just don't expect to breeze through it. Originally a mod for Skyrim, The Forgotten City took on a life of its own and became one of the most intriguing narrative games in recent years. Set in a time loop, yeah, another one, but stick with me, you're tasked with solving the mystery of an ancient Roman city where breaking even the tiniest moral law turns everyone to gold. It's a blend of detective work, puzzle solving, and a heavy dose of philosophy. What really shines in The Forgotten City is its writing. Every character feels like they have a story to tell, and the moral dilemmas the game throws at you are genuinely thought-provoking. It's not a game about combat or action. This one is all about talking, listening, and using your brain. And let me tell you, the twists and turns in this game are worth every minute of your time. The ending? Absolutely brilliant. So, why didn't this game make more waves? Well, it's not a huge, bombastic title. It's slower, more thoughtful, and that's not everyone's cup of tea. But if you're a fan of mystery, time loops, or games that make you question your morality, The Forgotten City is a must-play. Plus, how many games let you outwit an ancient god? Ghostrunner is basically what you'd get if Mirror's Edge had a baby with Cyberpunk 2077. A fast-paced, first-person parkour action game set in a dystopian cyberpunk city. You play as a cybernetic ninja, running on walls, dashing through the air, and slicing through enemies with a katana. The game is all about speed and precision. One wrong move, and you're toast. But when you nail a sequence of jumps, wall runs, and sword slashes, it feels incredibly satisfying. The game is brutally difficult at times, but the checkpoints are frequent enough that it never feels unfair. Every death is a learning experience, and by the time you finish a level, you'll feel like a total badass. Visually, it's stunning. Neon lights, rain-soaked rooftops, and a cyberpunk vibe that oozes style. The soundtrack? Absolute fire. It's the kind of game that makes you want to move fast and look cool while doing it. So why isn't Ghostrunner more talked about? Well, it's definitely niche. The difficulty is high, and it requires precise movement, which can turn off more casual players. But if you love fast-paced action and want to feel like a cyberpunk ninja for a few hours, Ghostrunner is one of the most underrated experiences out there. From the creators of Assassin's Creed Odyssey comes Immortals Fenyx Rising, a game that is basically a love letter to Greek mythology with a lighter, more humorous twist. You play as Fenyx, a mortal tasked with saving the gods from a massive threat, and you'll be solving puzzles, fighting mythological creatures, and exploring a colorful, open world that's brimming with charm. The game's art style is vibrant, and the humor is surprisingly sharp. Think Breath of the Wild meets Hercules, the animated movie, not the Kevin Sorbo one. The combat is fast-paced and fluid, with a nice mix of swordplay, bow attacks, and godly powers that make every encounter feel epic. You've got plenty of puzzles to solve along the way too, which will test your brain as much as your combat skills. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about flying around on wings and smacking cyclopes in the face. But why didn't Immortals Fenyx Rising blow up? Well, it was released around the same time as Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Cyberpunk 2077, two absolute behemoths in the gaming world. It got lost in the shuffle, which is a shame because it's one of the most charming and fun open-world games in recent memory. If you're looking for a lighter take on the open-world genre that doesn't take itself too seriously, this one's a hidden gem. Next up, we've got Tunic, a game that looks like an adorable love letter to The Legend of Zelda. But don't let that cute little fox protagonist fool you. This game will chew you up and spit you out if you're not careful. It's an isometric action-adventure where you explore mysterious ruins, fight tough enemies, and solve cryptic puzzles, all while trying to uncover the deeper meaning behind the world. What makes Tunic stand out is its sense of discovery. The game doesn't hold your hand, and much like old-school Zelda games, it expects you to figure things out on your own. There's a unique in-game manual that you'll piece together as you play, and it's not just for show. It actually contains vital information that you'll need to progress. The combat is deceptively tough, and the bosses will test your patience and skills in the best way possible. So, why didn't Tunic make more of a splash? It's an indie game that flew under the radar for a lot of people, and its difficulty curve might have scared off some casual players. But if you're a fan of Zelda-style adventures and love the thrill of discovery, Tunic is an absolute must-play. Plus, who doesn't want to play as a cute little fox with a sword? Here's a game that deserved way more love than it got, Days Gone. You play as Deacon St. John, a biker surviving in a post-apocalyptic world overrun by freakers. Basically zombies, but faster and scarier. It's an open-world action game where you'll be scavenging for supplies, upgrading your bike, and taking down freaker hordes that are genuinely terrifying. There's nothing quite like the feeling of running for your life as a horde of 100 freakers chases you through the woods. The story follows Deacon as he searches for his missing wife, and while it's not the most groundbreaking narrative, it has heart. Deacon's character development is solid, and by the end, you really feel like you've been on a journey with him. The world is beautifully realized, and the mix of exploration, crafting, and combat keeps things engaging. So why didn't Days Gone take off? Well, it had a rough launch with some technical issues that turned people off, and it came out around the same time as The Last of Us Part 2, which overshadowed it. But with patches and updates, Days Gone has become a fantastic open-world game that deserves a second chance. If you're into zombie apocalypses, biker gangs, and open-world mayhem, give this one a shot. All right, here we are at It Takes Two. Now, technically, this game did win Game of the Year in 2021, but you'd be surprised how many people still haven't played it. Maybe it's because It Takes Two is entirely co-op, so you have to play with someone else. But trust me, once you find a gaming buddy, or drag your partner into it, this game is an absolute blast. You play as Cody and May, a couple going through a rough patch, who, thanks to some magic and a particularly sassy talking book, are transformed into tiny dolls and must work together to escape a series of wild, imaginative worlds. What makes It Takes Two stand out is how every level introduces new mechanics, and each one feels fresh and inventive. 1 minute, you're using magnets to solve puzzles, and the next, you're battling squirrels on an airplane made of underpants. Yes, you read that right. The gameplay constantly surprises you, and the way it forces you to cooperate makes it a perfect couch co-op experience. So why is it underrated? Well, for one, a lot of people aren't keen on playing a game that requires a second player. And the marketing may have led some to believe this was just a cute little platformer, when in reality, it's a deeply creative, emotional journey that will have you laughing, shouting, and maybe even crying. If you haven't played it yet, grab a friend and get ready for one of the best co-op experiences ever. Nier Automata is one of those games that people either swear by or have never heard of. It's a mind-bending, genre-blending action RPG set in a post-apocalyptic world where androids fight to reclaim Earth from an army of machines. You play as 2B, an android with a giant sword and some serious attitude, but as you progress, the game's philosophical themes hit hard. It's a deep exploration of what it means to be alive, set to a backdrop of some of the most beautiful, haunting music you'll ever hear. The combat is fast and fluid, with a mix of hack and slash and bullet hell gameplay, which sounds chaotic but works incredibly well. But the real genius of Nier Automata lies in its storytelling. There are multiple endings, and each one reveals more layers of the story, making you question everything you thought you knew. It's a game that makes you think, not just about the characters, but about your own existence. Yeah, it's deep. So why didn't Nier Automata sell millions right off the bat? Honestly, it's a weird game. The marketing didn't quite explain just how much was packed into it, and some people were put off by the fact that you have to play through the game multiple times to fully understand the story. But if you're into action RPGs and want a game that'll leave you emotionally wrecked in the best way possible, Nier Automata is a must-play. At number 1, we've got Yakuza Like a Dragon. The Yakuza series has always been a bit of an underdog, but Like a Dragon takes things to a whole new level. This game completely reboots the series with a new protagonist, Ichiban Kasuga, who might just be one of the most lovable, charismatic characters in gaming. He's a big-hearted goofball with dreams of becoming a hero, and he brings a whole new dynamic to the Yakuza universe. The gameplay also shifts gears, going from real-time beat-em-up action to turn-based RPG combat. Yeah, it sounds weird, but it works so well. You'll be summoning lobsters and throwing bicycles at enemies while managing your party like it's Final Fantasy. The game is packed with mini-games, side quests, and all the ridiculous, over-the-top humor the series is known for. 1 minute, you're fighting gangsters in the street, and the next, you're running a business empire or singing karaoke. It's wild. So why is this game underrated? Well, the Yakuza series has always had a loyal but niche fan base, and the shift to a new protagonist and gameplay style may have scared off longtime fans. But trust me, Yakuza Like a Dragon is a brilliant mix of heartfelt storytelling, hilarious moments, and genuinely fun gameplay. If you've never played a Yakuza game, this is the perfect place to jump in, and once you meet Ichiban, you'll be hooked. And there you have it, the top 20 most underrated games. The hidden gems, the unsung heroes, and the games that deserve way more love than they got. If you've played any of these, let me know in the comments. And if not, well, now's the perfect time to check them out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more gaming goodness. See you next time.